Andrew, I'll let you take that one first.
No.
Hi, hello, welcome. Episode number 16, another movie podcast. Hello, my friends. I am Matthew, one of your hosts. What's going on, guys? How are you guys today?
I'm doing pretty good. You know what? The way you started this podcast, that's exactly how I like answer every single phone call. I'm always like, "Hi, hello," and I say "hi, hello" like every freaking time, and I just realized it sounds so weird hearing it from the other end. Like, oh man. Anyways, I'm Rico
I
DeGaio.
haven't done that intro, so I was like, yeah, hi after the hello. I'm so clever.
Hi, hello. Two different versions of the same word. I say that all the time. That's my go-to. Anyways, who's the other guy here?
What other guy? I don't know what you're talking about. There is no other guy. Just ignore me. I'm not hiding in this bush. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But I'm Andrew, as usual. We're here today, back at it as usual. Very excited about this episode.
Yes, sirs. We got a double kind of mystery horror. I mean, one's horror, one's definitely more thriller mystery. But I'm excited to talk about both because I'm really excited to hear both your guys' thoughts on each film. I think it's yeah, this is your episode, Andrew. You wanna take it away with the description?
Gladly. So, guys, today we are going to be talking about two very interesting movies that I definitely enjoyed. And like Matt was saying, I want to get their opinions on it. So, we have Knock at the Cabin, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. And our second movie is going to be The Void, directed by Jeremy Kalipsky, I think that's how you say it. And then Steve Konitsky. I don't know if I'm saying their last names right, but point is, we're going to be talking about their movies today. I wanted to start with Knock at the Cabin. I really enjoyed the movie. It's very fun. It's a very interesting premise. So pretty much it follows this family. There's a gay couple with their adopted daughter, and they're going on a family vacation to a cabin. I don't remember in the movie they specified where the cabin was. It was just a cabin in the woods. So as they're, enjoying their family time, having a good time, these four people show up, and basically they give this family a choice, or they don't want to give them this ultimatum, but they are given one, which is they have to choose which family member has to be sacrificed to save the world from an apocalypse. So with all that being said, what did you guys think of the movie Knock at the Cabin? Matt, let's start with you.
This is definitely in the upper echelon of M. Night Shyamalan's catalog. That is for sure, in my opinion. I actually came out of this very positive for the most part. I actually watched this movie twice. First time, I no, I knew I liked it from the first watch, but the second watch definitely wanted to pick up on more details that I didn't pick up on the first time. I definitely wanted to see if it was written as tightly. I didn't think it was beforehand, but I wanted to clear up a few things on my rewatch. Yeah, for the most part, I actually felt like I did think it did get a little bit better in some ways. And yeah, I actually really liked it. I feel like this movie is very performance driven, and it nails that department in every actor. Like even the little girl was surprisingly really good too. There are some moments where the dialogue doesn't, mesh well with the acting, but that's just an M Night Shyamalan trademark at this point. But
Hmm.
yeah, for the most part, I do think this is one of his more better written films. There are times where like that M Night Shyamalan dialogue does come through. It is kind of distracting, but for the most part, like this thing is pretty tight. I did like it overall. What about you, Rico? You're the one with the freshest perspective here. You just got out of the theaters. Yeah, what are your thoughts, man? I'm really curious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so having just gotten out of the theater, had a good little run in between. I gotta say, I was really impressed. I was really impressed by this one. I've gotten used to M Night Shyamalan and just being very disappointed every time I watch one of his movies now. The last one that I could think of that I was like, it's a good movie, it's a decent movie, was The Visit. I thought that was a pretty good premise and everything. This one was very intrigued by a lot of it. It does seem like this kind of a plot used a lot more, where it's like a doomsday if this particular thing does not happen. I've been seeing a lot more of that, and even talking about this, it does remind me of Cabin in the Woods, which I kind of
Yes. Yeah,
yeah.
like having similar titles doesn't help either.
I know
Yeah.
it's exactly the same kind of thing, but just a different thing, just more serious about it. Honestly, like it kind of works for it in that kind of way, and it is endearing in certain parts where it kind of feels like even the director has like it seems like he kind of took the voice from like dang, what's his name, from Key and Peele.
Jordan Peele?
Jordan Peele. There's a couple parts where it kind of feels like it's a little bit of a rip from like one of his movies, Us. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
If you guys
Yeah,
are
of course.
okay with it, I would like to talk about this like one scene from the beginning of the movie. If you guys are okay with that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
just go ahead. I
No.
mean, it's a mild spoiler for
Mm.
people listening, but yeah, go ahead.
So
I don't allow it, Rico. I don't allow it. I'm kidding. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So
I'm just fucking.
in the beginning of Us, there's a scene where the family's in the car, they're all singing everything. They're like, "What you know about this?" And they're all singing together. And then in this one, it seems like it's almost like a complete rip of it. It's like they start playing. I can't remember what movie or what song they're playing. I think it's like "Get Your Groove" thing, baby, or something like that. I can't
It's
remember.
something with like get my boogie shoes on or something like
Oh
that,
yeah, get my boogie.
or boogie boots or something.
Yeah, something like that. So it kind of seems like there's a few parts that are really good, but it just like seems like a little bit of a rip from other movies, and I've noticed that like in a couple different parts in it, and I'm like, I've really enjoyed this part, but it also really reminds me of a different movie. So I've had a lot of those. I'll bring it up throughout the podcast about that. But anyways, what do you want to get started on first, Andrew?
Well, I would say, well, we can start with just from my intro. It's like we don't need to cover the beginning. We already got that, so we can kind of just jump a little bit ahead to when, or actually, I want to talk about this one of the first scenes as well when we first meet Dave Bautista's character. I think his name was Leonard, right? Something like that.
Yep, correct.
And then he's talking with
When?
the little girl. I can't. What was it? Win? Right?
When? Yeah.
Win, yeah, and he's talking to Win, and he's like being genuinely friendly, and you can kind of feel that his character doesn't want to do this. He's like, I don't want to be here. I don't like. You already get that energy from that scene alone. He's like, when he said, "My heart is broken," and she's like, "Why is it broken?" And then they have that whole conversation. And he explains that he's here for her and her family. So I like that. Oh, that kind of establishes the tone for the movie, which I enjoyed about it. The dialogue, I mean, you could argue could have been a little bit stronger, just even with the whole movie in general. You could like kind of like what Matt was saying, the M. Night Shyamalan mannerisms in terms of dialogue is there, and you do notice it, but I don't think it completely ruins the movie for me, but it did take me out at points. So what did you guys?
Yeah, about that intro, like I didn't like. I mean, hey, I did like it. I do think this film is very well shot for being all in one location. At least the cinematography is done very well. I did not like a lot of the excessive close-ups he
Oh,
would use
Yeah.
yeah.
in the
Mhm.
movie, like especially in the beginning. I'm like, okay, you can like you have a very beautiful background. You could really utilize some of the, you have a great cinematographer. There are some really good shots in this movie. Like I really don't understand like why you needed those like excessive close-ups. Like they looked really bad to me.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
like when you compare it to like when they're like strumming their fingers through the grass and picking up grasshoppers, which I thought was
Mhm.
fairly interesting. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like they're actually doing this. That's a nice looking visual right there. And then it's just super close up. Like
Yeah.
it was just like any line they had, it would just flip back to the other person, flip back to the other one, flip back, and I'm just like, good lord. Like, can we back out? Get some breathing there?
Yeah, the editing in this movie wasn't very creative, I would say that.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is
but there were some like decent shots that I liked. Like for example, like whenever like some of the action, like for example, like what was the daddy? Oh my god, I'm forgetting the gay dad's names
Oh,
uh,
right
Daddy
now.
Eric?
Eric.
Daddy
It's
Andrew.
not Eric. The other one,
Andrew.
Andrew, right?
Yeah.
Andrew.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a
When
gay
he's
daddy. Woo!
Woo!
yeah, Daddy Andrew.
Daddy
Woohoo!
Andrew.
You
Damn
know, that could
right.
be your new nickname going forward. I like
Uh,
that.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Big gay
I will
Daddy
address
Andrew.
I will address you rightfully so in the next episode.
Can't wait.
That's your new title.
So yeah, Danny Andrew when he's fighting Redmond, Rupert Grint's character. I really like the POV shot when he's like
Oh,
putting the punches in. I was like, okay, like there is actually like some decent camera like some good craftsmanship here. Or whenever Leonard when he had the I don't even know what to call it. I guess like a mallet of some sort
oh,
when he was chopping the body up into pieces. Yeah, I liked how it was shot in those sense. One thing that kind of bums me out, though, that I found out afterwards, the entire time, but besides for like a few f bombs, I was thinking the film was like PG-13, and then by the end of it, I found out it was rated R, and I was like, what? Like, I mean, in my opinion, that is kind of like a huge missed opportunity because, in my opinion, I mean, usually I'm not one for saying like gore like makes a movie better, but I definitely do think if he pushed the envelope a little bit in that direction, I definitely felt like it could have been a little bit better. Like I felt like if he would have pushed it a little bit more in that extreme direction, like when they're chopping up. Oh yeah, so full spoilers for this movie. Yeah, so like when they're like chopping up the body parts, I don't know. I thought that was like kind of like a wasted opportunity for like some interesting gore, and I think it would have been interesting in an M Night Shyamalan movie is too.
you know,
But I don't know. I kind of feel like he's still trying to be like a little artsy with this stuff too. Even though it is kind of just like in my opinion, just a really good kind of like Twilight Zone episode.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, that's a good way of saying that. That's really weird that you
Yeah,
said that it's rated R. I
yeah,
completely thought it was PG-13. Like, and I was okay with it
Yeah,
being PG-13 because they kept trying to shield the kid Win from like all the violence and everything, and everyone there did not actually want to cause any harm or anything, but they just had to. So it was just like it seemed like all the violence was secondary, and it was like it didn't need to be shown, and then the language being cleaned up was because their dad's trying to talk around their kid and they don't want their kid hearing like all this crazy talk. They want to try to remain calm for the most part, but hearing it's rated R, like what the heck? Like
no, yeah,
mhm,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
it's very tame. I'm like, yeah, if it's rated R, like you might as well have just pushed the envelope a little bit more. Like, why not?
exactly. Yeah.
I did want to get into like the characters, our four characters that they encounter, and what they represent and
Mm,
whatnot. Um, so yeah, I was a little. I guess I don't understand how they determine in which order they die. Like, I don't know. I like even watching it a second time. I'm like, there's no real clear indication why they kill themselves in the order that they do. I was a little, little muddy on that part. I was just like, I don't know. I also just kind of thought it was like poorly written in
mhm.
some parts. But yeah, what did you guys think about that?
so I thought like cuz full spoiler discussion, we already went over that. These all four of the antagonizers in this movie, they're all basically symbols of like the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and they really hammer that home that that's what it is. And I was like, oh, okay. There's no real.
Yeah,
There's
they literally say it out
yeah,
loud.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's
they really
Yeah,
just that's where the writing
not
got really
subtle
messy
whatsoever.
when they started hammering the point. Like they were really being on the nose with it. I was like, all right, now the writing is getting kind of ridiculous at that point, you know?
yeah. That was a big gripe. I was like, there's no subtlety. I was like, all right, cool. Like, all right. But when they were all like, yeah, O'Bannon or Redman,
Redmond.
he represents malice, and then they were going through like what each person represented. I was like, what? You're taking my job from me, man. Let me react to your stuff and then like like come up to my own conclusions about this stuff. Don't say give me the conclusion for it. Anyways,
Yeah.
so when they were listing that off, and I was trying to like rationalize why they would be put in the order that they were put in, I still couldn't really figure it out. I understand why Dave Bautista, the guidance, would be the last because he's trying to guide them to the decision. You would want that guidance the whole way. Malice, I think you would want to get over with quickly to show like, hey, this. But nurturing and all that, I just really didn't understand because it kind of seemed like the three other characters that were more tame. Like it seemed like they were just like interchangeable in a way. except for Dave
Yeah.
No,
Bautista.
exactly. Yeah,
Hmm.
because like the mom character, she was like, okay, like not trying to figure you guys out, but I am next. And so I'm like, okay, so like, how do you know you're next? Like, why?
I think in the movie, though, for that, I kind of chalked it down to the fact that because in the movie they say that they were all having visions, and it's how they all met each other because they had the vision at some pier or something like that.
Hmm.
So I chalked it down to the
Yeah.
fact that they were each having visions. But at the same time, I'm still kind of like, maybe explain that a little better.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they upon rewatch, I mean, that's why I was saying like in some ways it got better, but in some ways it did get worse. Yeah, like upon rewatching, like I did pick up on the fact that they met over the internet, describing each other's visions, and then they met eventually at the
Oh
dock,
yeah.
and then yes, and so then like they just started like, oh, like yeah, like I experienced this and this vision and yada yada. I mean, that actually is an aspect of the movie I like. I do like how like Daddy Derek is like the one, or no, my bad, not Eric. Daddy Andrew is kind of like the one pushing against that like
Hmm.
constantly. Like he is like he actually is bringing up great points. Like, all right, like no, like come on, you need to pay attention, Eric. Like this that was a pre-recording. Like that was 4 hours ago. And stuff like that. Like he's constantly like trying to be like, no, like there's no way like this could be happening. And I like that he was like a hardcore skeptic. Like I
Yeah,
thought that was
Mhm.
like a good strength of the movie.
and the movie is like based in his perspective too, if you look at it, because it's like they could have shown like the same way that they were showing with the two dads the flashbacks to their like experiences, but instead of doing that they were showing, or they were just saying it but not showing any of the visions or anything of them, because it's like you're supposed to be on the family side and being like, is this real, or are they just like some cultists, or are they actually like with the shits on these little visions? Are they actually like having these things? And they didn't want to, they wanted to keep it vague to kind of portray that possible twist at the end that M. Night Shyamalan is like always like famous for. Like,
Mhm.
oh no, no, it was just all in their head. They're just trying to gaslight you into thinking that you're causing the end of the world or something like that. So,
Mhm.
so I kind of like how they kept it vague, like how the same reasons you were describing, Matt. But what about you, Andrew?
I really like that because I did write that down on my notes for I wrote two specific notes for Daddy Andrew and Daddy Eric. For Daddy Andrew, I already put what Matt was saying, kind of like how uh, Andrew was like super skeptical and didn't really believe what they were saying is true. And he's like, they want something from us, but we just don't know what it is. Like it's just this. There's no crazy outside force controlling all this stuff happening. It's just natural disasters that have no sense, that are not created. They just happen. And then with Eric, so throughout the movie you start seeing that he's slowly believing them. Like he's kind of like and even Andrew is catching on to that, and he's kind of like, hey, remember that this isn't real. Like they're lying. Like he's like constantly reinforcing his skeptical point of view to Eric, like, hey, don't believe them. They're lying. They're just trying to get something from us. But then Eric is like, just he looks skeptical because it's like, well, how could they have possibly known this and that and this, like all these other things? But they also still make counter arguments. So like, well, they know it because of this and that or whatever. So that's the part of the movie I really enjoyed too throughout. That was really good.
Yeah, especially there's like the thing that you're talking about right there about Eric being the more one that's like kind of like feeling it like, hey, this might be true, is also because he's more religious than Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Because like there's a part when they're going after they're gonna go pick up Win, their adoptive daughter baby at this time, and they see like this mural of Jesus playing soccer with like some
Dude,
kids.
I
Mm-hmm.
laughed at that part. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my god, like,
So dumb,
yeah, like,
but at the same
no,
time, it's M. Night
exactly.
Shyamalan,
That's
man.
exactly what it's saying.
Yeah, and then like Andrew, Daddy Andrew says, if you want to pray, go ahead. And so it kind of shows that like there might be like a background where Eric might be like a closeted like a religious person back in the day, and it's like kind of like in his core values, like when he was a child. So it's like it would make sense for him to be the one that is like, maybe there is, maybe there is, maybe this is God, you know, maybe it's this, maybe these are the four horsemen of the apocalypse and all this. It makes sense for him to be the one more in line with it. And then Andrew being the one, Daddy Andrew being the one that's like more scornful because he has that temper and everything. He just sees the world for the ugliness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, and that I mean that brings up the point too, where where you get to see like how he knows how to fight, why he
Mm-hmm.
carries a firearm, which is
Mm-hmm.
like in another interesting point in the movie where it's revealed that he actually knows Redmond because he encountered him at a bar several years back, and yeah, it actually is revealed that it actually was him. I mean, they do toy with it, like, oh, like, are you sure it's him? Because like he had like a different last name and whatnot. But they do specifically. His last name was O'Bannon, and at some point, Daddy Andrew does finally go check, and it is confirmed that it is him. And you do see in the flashback that you do visually see him, and I love how it's shot too. It doesn't like spell it out for you, like, oh, hey, it's him. You just see the back of his head, you see his scruffy, red beard, red hair, and all that stuff, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, no, that is him.
That's another thing too. You brought it up earlier, and then you said it this time. Like the way it was shot when he was just beating the fuck out of Redmond was so like one sided and just dominant that I was like, dude, what the hell? Where did this guy come from? I thought this the Redmond guy was gonna be like the main like muscle, even though the like he was gonna be the fighter, you know. Then he just got his ass obliterated. I was like, holy
Mm-hmm.
shit! And then it shows why he knows how to fight was because of that one time, and he just like had it in his head and just trained it up. I thought that was the coolest flashback in the movie. I
Yeah.
honestly thought that was the coolest scene too. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah.
Whoops.
No,
Oh.
yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
Oh. Okay. One of the things that I really liked about this movie, and then what I also like about the other movie we're going to talk about after this, is that there's that sense of having no control. Like you don't have a choice. Everything that is happening right here, right now, you have to work with whatever is there, but everything else you have no control over. Like you have to make this one decision, and everything is either put set back into its place or everything is gone to ruin. You don't like there's really not you don't really they the characters in these movies that we were talking about today, they sort of don't have a choice. They have to be involved in this situation. I thought that was really interesting because it's like, what would you do of a situation that you didn't want to deal with, or a situation that you would never want to be in? You're in. Like, how would you handle it? What would you do? What would you do? Because it even more because it involves your loved ones. Like all that really caught my eye with these two movies.
Yeah, and you really see
Yeah,
it with the antagonists on this one. Like
Mm-hmm.
they are super nice. Even the one that's like supposed to represent malice is still like understanding and like he's like, you know, if I was you guys, I wouldn't believe this shit either. Like honestly, you got your family. I would probably choose my family over it. Like he's like so understanding, even when he's supposed to be like the worst one, and he's just like. I just like how. Also, by the way, real quick, I'm sorry, this is kind of off topic. Is that Ron Weasley?
Yes.
yeah, it's Rupert Grant.
Yep. It's him.
Glad he's doing well.
He said, "Glad he's doing well." That's funny.
But yeah, like, oh
Yeah,
my
he did
god,
great
He
yeah,
did.
with the short amount of screen time he had.
he was
Mhm.
like my favorite one out of the four. I still like Dave Bautista, but I mean, I thought he was like the more like memorable one out of them. His whole like connection to them, it really left me something to be desired with the other characters. I thought they were gonna have some symbolic attachment to each one of the family members in some way. Like I thought,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I thought the nurse was gonna be the one that helped uh and Daddy Andrew after his head attack, whatever it was, like
Mhm.
concussion, I guess. But nothing
And
really.
you know what? Here's my thing, and I'm kind of glad you brought that up. And I don't mean to cut you off, but
No.
when there was that whole scene where we see him get attacked by Redmond, um, with at the bar and everything, and then throughout the movie, Dave Bautista's character Leonard mentions that he was a bartender on the side from being a youth coach.
Yes.
So it made me think, okay, well, what if they were all like, there at the bar that night. Like Batista was a bartender. Redmond was one who hit him. Maybe like you were just saying, the nurse was there, kind of like trying to take care of him, and then you could maybe figure out where to put the line cook lady who has
That
the son.
yeah, you could
Like you
say
could
that's where
way to
she.
like. I thought that's what they were gonna do because they showed the bar and they mentioned that he was a bartender. And when I watched it with Matt when he went the second time, I don't know if you noticed that, but I pointed during that scene when like they were in a bar. I was like, wait a minute, maybe Batista's character was there or something like that's what I was thinking when I was watching that scene.
Yeah, because like I can't remember Adrian.
Adrian, yes, that's her name. What?
Yeah,
But what was the name of the nurse too?
Sabrina.
Sabrina.
Sabrina. Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah,
We got
so
everybody.
Adrian, her son looks like relatively the same age as Win. So I was like, oh, what if she met the guy and then that's where she got pregnant from? Like,
Hmm?
so she was just
Oh,
another
Yeah, because
patron,
like,
you know?
yeah, it's such stuff we have to like think of in our own head. Like, because like even on the second watch, like I didn't see any other connections to like the other characters besides Redmond, which I found. I don't know, like it feels like because this is based off of a novel, so it does lead me to believe like maybe there are some other ties to the other four horsemen with our main characters, but maybe there isn't. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, even then, like even if there is like no deeper meaning to it, like I do still think it does work as like a good like kind of like telling of like we could see like that like Andrew get to why he gets to get tough and why he owns a gun and whatnot. Like we get to see those roots in him get planted. There's kind of like a rage that was formed in him from that day. He's like, okay, you know what? That's the last straw. I'm not going to take any more shit anymore. Like,
Yes.
I have to be like the dominant one. Like, I can't like keep letting people run over me. And like you guys said too. Like, I agree. Like, I think that bar scene is like one of the best scenes. Which
Exactly.
I mean, I do like again, like with the way M Night Shyamalan shoots this, I do wish it showed a little bit more of the background and just the environment and whatnot. But it still worked for what it was, and it had a good payoff too. I mean, I still think it works mostly.
Hmm.
I
I
honestly
agree with
agree.
that.
Yeah, I agree as well. That was really good. That part was really, really good.
Also, quick thing: have you guys ever seen or heard of the show Modern Family?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
I've heard of it.
and I have a feeling M Night Shyamalan watched one episode of that and was just like, I'm gonna write a movie where two gay white men adopt an Asian baby. And when I saw that, I immediately thought of Modern Family because I can't remember the name of the characters, but there's a gay couple in there who have an Asian daughter that they adopted. So I thought that was kind of funny. I was just like, "Hey, M Night Shyamalan, Modern Family called. They want their characters back. Like, hello." Like, it randomly came up to me when I was watching the movie. I was just kind of like, "Huh, interesting." How it's like it's the exact same kind of thing.
I know
But I
that
don't know if that was intentional or not, or I just it's something I noticed.
that's like a
I
stereotype
mean,
that,
like,
yeah.
okay.
That was like a
Yeah, I mean,
stereotype
go ahead.
where it was very hard for like gay people to adopt in the US, so then they would go to
Right.
other countries and do it like that.
Hmm.
Angelina Jolie, I don't know how many she has, but she's done that a
Yeah.
lot. But it was a very big stereotype for white gay couples to do.
Yeah. It's just like white couples in general. There's a stereotype of them like adopting like a different race child for whatever reasons. You can come up with whatever you think. Yeah, I just found it kind of funny. I was like, Modern Family did that first.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that just reminds you of other things. It's just
Exactly.
really
Yes. Yes.
off-putting. Like, did you notice anything else?
Well, I mean, aside from like the typical M. Night Shyamalan mannerisms that are felt throughout the movie, I enjoyed this movie, don't get me wrong, but it definitely felt kind of generic in a way. The only thing that was like, I think what was interesting about it was the concept that there was something coming and all the characters either didn't want to be a part of it but had to, or like they kind of, I don't know. I'm meshing my words here, but more of my first point is what I mean for the movie. Like that was what was really interesting. All the characters didn't want to be there and didn't want to be involved, but they didn't really have a choice. Like that was the main appeal for me. Everything else felt kind of generic. The Four Horsemen didn't feel like fully developed. Like Matt was saying earlier, like there was more to be desired with them. Like Leonard was my favorite just because I loved Dave Bautista. He was like one of my favorite wrestlers growing up as a kid, along with like Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio. So it's just kind of like he already gets that pass for me in like anything that he's in, whether it was like Smallville or Guardians of the Galaxy, Blade Runner 2049. Like anytime I see Dave Bautista, I'm like, this is gonna be good because he's a good actor.
Met that dude
I guess
twice.
for me, like the standout was the acting, though. Like
Yeah.
I felt like yeah, I agree. Like this is like a generic premise, and it's been done before. It's all in one location, but I mean, at the same time, like I do find it impressive in the sense that it all is in one location, and it is a story that works very well.
Mhm.
And like I said, the acting is for me the strongest points here. Like honestly, like really thinking about it, like honestly, I do think this is Dave Bautista's best role, to be honest. Like the best he's been. Like this is the most emotion he's shown. This is the most screen time he's had, I feel like too. Like I thought he
Mhm.
did fantastic in this movie.
I
And everyone else I thought did really well
I
too.
completely
It's
agree
just
with your take on Dave Bautista. He did amazing. Like
He's
compared to his
great.
other works, yeah.
He's great. I think he's been great from the start. Like he was one of those actors who I was like watching kind of progress in terms of making movies, and I was just like, I think it's like Ray Johnson said. Like I think he is the best wrestler turned actor. No offense to Dwayne Johnson or John Cena, but my money's on Dave Bautista.
no, I mean, like that's for sure. I mean, like just giving both, like all three of their track records, like yeah, he has definitely chosen the most consistent work, in my opinion.
I mean,
Like in this movie, just kind of solidified him as like a more serious actor in my mind. Like I definitely want to see him start doing like more dramatic roles like this.
Mhm.
And I do like his more comedic roles too. Of course, Drax. But even he said like he doesn't want Drax to be his legacy because
Yeah,
it's much more of a lighthearted kind of goofy character.
yeah,
Which
and
I mean,
like
that's fine if it brings joy to people. That's awesome. But
yeah,
I totally understand his perspective. Like,
Mhm.
I want to be taken more seriously as an actor. And, I respect him for it. And I'm glad he took a lot of risks in this movie. And yeah, I think he did awesome in it.
the thing about this too is like when you're comparing like the roles that The Rock has taken or Dwayne Johnson, like
Oh,
he
yeah.
plays the same character the entire
yeah,
time.
he does.
Yep.
Even with Black Adam, I was hoping Black Adam would be different, but oh man, like
Yeah,
I like just quick little side tangent. Like I liked Black Adam and everything. Like it was enjoyable, but it wasn't like The Rock kept like hyping this up. Like he's like, I'm gonna be Black Adam in this movie, and it was just like you're just The Rock dressed cosplaying as Black Adam. Like it's not.
yeah.
I don't feel Adam Teth here. I feel Dwayne Johnson in a Black Adam costume.
And then you look at Dave Bautista, and it's like I think he was in The Man with the Iron Arms. Do you remember that?
The Man with the Iron Fist. I
The
Yeah.
Iron
love that
Fist,
movie.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, he was. He
Yeah,
was with fucking RZA. Yeah.
yeah, so he was like that, and he was very much so the stereotypical how you would imagine a wrestler turned actor would be.
Actor. Yeah.
And then you see like his other works where he starts like branching out. Drax, he was super comedic. This one, he's like very soft and like well spoken, doesn't resort to violence. Like whenever he can, he's very good with kids, and mainly is like a PG adult. And
Mhm.
I think this really, like what Matt was saying, this really is probably his best like acting as an actor, like branching out from what he's like typecasted as. Like he
I
does
don't
a really
know.
good job.
For me, I think my personal favorite from Dave Bautista was his like little bit in Blade Runner 2049. There is where where for me he was solidified.
Nah.
I think he did good in his little bit there. I liked his whole little monologue with the. I think he was good in that.
He
That's when
did
I saw his
good.
potential. When I saw his potential to do even bigger roles. That was like my personal favorite from him. That's where I kind of saw him as like a more serious actor because he got to flex his acting chops versus other movies where he's kind of like a brute enforcer kind of thing.
I mean, yeah, he's been comedic relief the past few years with,
Mhm.
Guardians and, other comedy movies he's done. Like didn't he do kind kind of like a Tooth Fairy kind of movie where like
That was The
like Dwayne
Rock.
Johnson is like with a little girl.
Oh,
No,
did he?
I know that was The Rock, but didn't he do one too or something like that?
Yeah. It was called.
Uh,
It was something Spy. I Spy. I think that's
Was
what it
it
was called.
Spy?
Something Spy.
Yeah,
It was like
hold on.
I Spy or
I
Spy.
Spy. That's
I think
right.
it was My
Yeah.
Spy.
My Spy. Was
Yeah,
that what it was called? My Spy. Yeah. Okay.
I'm going through his
Or something.
IMDb. I will fact check everyone in a sec.
You
Give me a
know,
sec.
Yeah.
the one
Oh,
thing
it's My
that
Spy. It is My Spy.
My Spy. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
the one thing that
Well, same.
Dave Bautista has been talking about lately is that he really wants to do like a romantic, like be like the romantic lead of a movie. But he just can never find he can never be casted for it because he's just too big and he doesn't fit. Like people just look at him and they don't think that he can be like that kind of like soft, vulnerable type of person. But I really I really hope he starts getting those roles that he's actually wanting because I would love
Hmm.
to see him like start acting more like how he was in this, like be more of a softer type of person. I want to see where he can go with it. I actually want to see him test his acting skills.
He did give like M Night Shyamalan like a lot of like he gave him like a lot of appreciation points in a recent interview, saying like he allowed him to try things he's never tried before in acting, and like he was just super appreciative for like this opportunity to get to express himself that way. And I was like,
Hmm.
that is really cool because like like I said, like M Night Shyamalan's track record is pretty bad, but like every once in a while he does nail like a movie like this where like, oh, it's like, okay, like this is solid. Like it's not complete dog shit. And and yeah, I'm glad that it allows like someone like Dave Bautista like a chance to shine his chops and whatnot. But one thing I did want to get into is like some of the some similarities that you pick up on, Rico, to like other media.
Yeah.
Are there any other like movies that like it specifically like reminds you of?
So I talked about it a little bit in the beginning, but definitely Cabin in the Woods. It's essentially the world ending type of thing. Everything is like, oh, if these people have to be in this cabin, and then we have to kind of get them to manipulate them into being into this type of thing, or else if they don't die, then the world ends. And it's like it's just a more serious, less like comical approach to that kind of a thing. The directing choices for a lot of different scenes, like how I spoke about in the beginning with the song, really just harkens back to like Jordan Peele. And then, although I will give it this, I will give that part, that the one with the song at the very end, after the decision is made, and the little girl is sitting in the car with the last daddy remaining, and they turn on the radio and it's that song, and then the dad turns it off and the little girl turns it back on, but then looks at him and then turns it off out of respect for him for how he might feel, and then the dad turns it back on to be like, it's okay, I'm not gonna
Yeah, that was
let
a
this
great
ruin it.
moment.
That was my
No
favorite
dialogue
moment.
too.
No dialogue. That was my favorite like moment in the movie. I was like, oh my god, that was so good. Like that was such a good
That was a
scene.
great ending.
Yeah, but do you guys actually want to talk about that ending?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can talk
really
about it.
quick. I do want to like push back a little bit on the whole like that the song being played in a car scene and being in a Jordan Peele movie. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I feel like I've seen that scene in like a lot of movies. To be honest, like
Hmm.
I feel like it is like a very like kind of common occurrence. Like, I mean, I guess it does depend on like what you do with like those type of situations. Which I like that you brought up that like it does have like a purposeful meaning at the end. Like I love that it actually has like that emotional punch towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, like, oh shit, like they actually like did something with like that that cheesy song at the beginning. But
Hmm.
yeah, it ultimately paid off into like it has a payoff. I mean, yeah, I actually I really like it, to be honest, in this movie how they utilized it.
Yeah, favorite scene in the entire movie, in my opinion.
But my bad. What were you gonna say before that, Andrew? Oh, what were we going to get into?
Well, I was just nothing really. I was just kind of on the same page as you guys. The ending was very It was a good ending. It was fitting for the movie and everything that happened. And I definitely feel like I've seen it in other movies before where, the main characters suffer a great loss, but they look onward towards the sunrise or whatever. Like, you've seen it countless times before, but it's not like it's a big takeaway. Like it doesn't ruin the movie, but it is something we have seen before.
Mhm.
I
Also,
like the good ending. I mean, it was
Mhm.
either that or the world does end. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like, would you guys like? I'm pretty sure like if they do like come out with like a Blu-ray of this, like I would love to see like an alternate cut of this, like where like the world does end and they walk the earth for all eternity because it's just the three of them. Like, I
That
think
would
that would
be cool.
be another interesting way of ending it.
Yeah.
it would definitely have been more interesting if they just went with that route. Um, the thing that made me upset about sorry, not the editing, the ending of this movie was that it seemed like they already came to the decision that one of them needs to die, but they still let Dave Bautista kill himself.
Yeah.
Like they were already like, yeah, look at these planes falling down all around us. Like, yep, shit's happening. And then immediately after Dave Bautista kills himself, Daddy Eric turns around and says, he says we still have a couple minutes. Let's get this done with, Like, I'm like, what the fuck? Why didn't you just do it before?
I mean, honestly, that's a good question. Like, why didn't they try to save Leonard?
They
Like,
just
this is
let
kind of
Leonard
cold.
die.
Yeah.
That's where like the writing is like trying to be like up its own butt and trying to be like a lot more symbolic than it actually is. Like, yeah, and that's where it's like, okay, yeah, that is really silly. But yeah, I mean, overall, I still do think like I still do think the ending does work. Over, like all things considered, like
Yeah,
yeah, that is a good point. Like you definitely could have maybe saved Leonard. But overall, I still think it has like a bittersweet ending, like for sure. Oh yeah, so full spoiler territory. Yeah, so they actually sacrificed Daddy Eric, which that actually was like, how'd you guys feel about their last scene together? Like, did you guys feel the emotion when they had to say goodbye to each other?
Andrew, I'll let you take that one first.
No. No, I'm kidding. Well, I did in a way. Like, I definitely felt what the scene was trying to convey, but I don't know if I would say I felt their deaths. Like I didn't feel it emotionally. Like I understood it, like what they were conveying, and I do. Like the use of the flashbacks to kind of build up their backstory and like their love for each other is just kind of like, yeah, I get it. Cute. They're a happy couple. It's nice. And then one of them has to die, and you're like, oh, that's kind of how I felt. Like I didn't feel like so like heartbroken or just oh, Daddy Eric, like like the movie was trying to make me feel. I feel kind of bad saying that because I do enjoy this movie, but yeah, I wasn't really feeling it. I guess. How about you guys?
So my whole takeaway from that was like it made sense that Daddy Eric would be the one to make the decision to
Hmm.
sacrifice himself because of his like. In my mind, I don't know if it's canon or if it's like the accepted like background of it, but in my head, I built him up as like, oh, in his childhood or somewhere at some point in his life, he had a positive experience with religion, and that's why like
Okay.
certain he chose like certain things, why he was more receptive to certain things. And basically Daddy Andrew was more so like just the skeptic that believed all people hated him because of what his sexual orientation was. And pretty much it was just like he had to learn that like, hey, you are loved and this world is worth fighting for, like just you have to save it basically. So I like what they did, that ultimately like they made the
Mhm.
decision that Daddy Eric was the one that was going to sacrifice him to also help Daddy Andrew like not only save the world but also save himself from his own like malice, which I thought was really really good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah. I agree. And like I actually he was a character I did care for too. So like I definitely did, felt his sacrifice.
Yeah,
Um yeah, freaking it worked for me for the most part. I definitely
yeah.
felt, I mean, obviously like I'm not like sitting there fucking sobbing my eyes out, but like it definitely conveyed what it was, you know, trying to convey. Like I was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty sad. Uh Goodbye, Daddy Eric.
Yeah,
It's nice knowing you.
you did well, man. You did well.
You done good. You done good. Like, and I was watching that.
Just
I remembered that the actor who plays Daddy Eric was also in Mindhunter. He's one of the main characters in that show. And I was like, I love Mindhunter, so I love him. He's Jonathan Graff. I think that's his name. He's a really good actor.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah, he did fantastic in this job too. He did great for having to be concussed the whole movie.
Oh,
Yeah,
as
he
someone that
did.
just had a concussion, that shit was pretty good.
Yeah, like I can attest to this acting.
Yeah, during the
Yeah.
hiatus, that was not a fun time. But
No,
yeah,
not at all. Not at all. It's dark times. Very dark times.
yeah. Well, once I turn down the curtains. But hey, would you guys like to get into ratings for this, or is there anything else that you guys want to chime in about on it?
No, yeah, I was just about to say like I'm ready to wrap this up. We can
Me
we
too.
can get into ratings and go into the next one.
Hmm.
All right. Well,
So who wants to go first?
I mean, this is Andrew's decision here. It is
Not
his
it.
wreck. I feel like if he wants, he could go first, he could go middle, he could go last, or he can delegate others to do so.
That's why I yelled
I've
not it.
always Okay, yeah. I mean, usually when in these cases, I've always like if it's a recommended episode, like obviously, like I've always taken it as like that person goes last. So
Yeah.
in that case, I'll go first. I'll start off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually really like this movie, and I'm gonna be very positive on it. Yeah, it is derivative of other pieces of work. What I do think elevates it is the performances and the acting. I think everyone here does really good. There are a few points where the M. Night Shyamalan dialogue does kind of seep through, and it is, kind of noticeable. There are a few moments where, like, I personally, I'm like, okay, if this was edited down, like in this scene, it would be so much better. Like, there was one scene I didn't even mention it when we were talking about it, but I'll mention it here. But there was like several times where, like, I did think the actress who's playing Wen, the little girl, did do really, really well. But there was this point where in the beginning where she just kept like screaming, like, "What are they doing? What are they doing?" And I'm like, oh my God, just stop. It's obvious what's going on right now. Like,
Mhm.
like you don't need to repeat it 3 or 4 times in the span of like 2 minutes. Like, Jesus Christ.
They're trying to
Like,
fucking
yeah,
kill
there's
us.
just a few points like that where I'm like, oh, wish it was just edited down in like, there's like 5 minutes in this movie I would take out, and it would instantly be better for me. Like,
Mhm.
honestly, I'm just like, just get rid of some of that M. Night Shyamalan dialogue, and it would be a lot better. But yeah, all things considered, I do think this was a good, tense, psychological, contained thriller for the most part. I think this is a career best for Dave Bautista. I like seeing Rupert Grint get some work. I like small budgeted movies of this caliber, and yeah, I'm a fan of these kind of stories, and I feel like I'm a little bit higher on this one than you guys. I did really enjoy it overall. So yeah, I think the positives outweigh the negatives here, and I'm gonna give it a solid 7. I would say it's like a little bit closer to a 6. I was struggling between that and a 7, but yeah, there was a lot of things that I really liked that truncated that. Like I said, the acting was really strong for me, and that Dave Bautista performance was really memorable. So, yeah, yeah, solid 7.
Yeah,
What about you, Rico? What do you think?
that's actually very valid. Like in my opinion, I thought that this movie was just straight up a solid 7. I was like, you know what? I really enjoyed this movie. Throughout this talk about it, both of you at different points said you didn't cry. I cried. I'm not gonna lie, I teared up.
I mean, that's what's up, though. That's emotion.
Yeah, when they started playing the song at the very end, and then they turned it off, kept turning it back on, turning it off, and then they're like, "Okay, we can keep it on." Like, yeah, I'm ready. I can accept this. I was like, "Oh fuck!" It's like, "Oh no." I actually started really tearing up on that, and I felt okay with it because the older woman that was sitting like right beside me, that she really wanted a conversation with me, but I was like, we're in a movie theater. She was like crying on that, so I was like, it's her, guys, it's not me. I'm not crying. Oh god. But it was a great little scene, so I was like, yeah, I really like this movie. There's a good few parts where it remind me of other movies, but at the same time it does save itself from just being like, ugh, look at that. But yeah, so I gotta say, like, solid 7. I actually enjoyed this movie a lot. I thought it was one of M. Night Shyamalan's callbacks to Grace. Like, he did Split, which I loved. I love Split. Didn't really care too
Yes.
much about Glass. Yeah, so didn't really care too
Glass
much
more
about
like
that.
ass.
Yes, no, straight up.
It's
Yeah.
such a shit movie. But anyways, you were saying.
But yeah, so like, other than Split and The Invite, like, I feel like those are the two that I would put above like almost everything that he's come out since. Like, ever since Unbreakable. Like, that these are the ones that I feel like are like standing out more. And I really do hope he does more movies like this, but I'm still gonna be very skeptical. This is not the kind of movie that's gonna like completely change my mind of M. Night Shyamalan, but still, hopefully, it's a step in the right direction. And yeah, what about you, Andrew? How'd you feel? I'm really curious to hear what you say about that.
Well, I enjoyed this movie. It was very it was entertaining, got the job done, hit the marks it needed to hit. Didn't hit them all successfully, but I mean, still hit them. With everything being considered as well, my main appeal to it was the concept of people having to do something they don't want to do, even though like they don't have a choice. That was really just again the biggest draw for me because I thought that was such a cool and unique concept. I guess not unique, but it's still like a very great storytelling method to have in your story. So honestly, it's sevens all around, baby. We got the lucky seven. I liked it. It was like
Jackpot!
jackpot, baby.
Jackpot sounds. Yeah, casino. Woo.
Casino.
It costs money to get those app approved generated sounds. We just got to do it with our mouths. Ding 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 ding.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Yeah, sorry guys, we're not loaded. We're not exactly rolling in the dough.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
one day
though.
we will be.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
We'll get those stock sounds one day.
Yeah, that'll be the
Yeah,
day.
Forward.
But yeah, continue.
Nowhere but up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrew. Continue.
So yeah, it was a good time, very fun. Since we got ratings wrapped up, should we get into the next movie?
Yeah, I think we're ready. Yeah, we just knocked out Knock at the Cabin. Let's go into the void. Take it away, Andrew.
Sounds good. All right. So The Void again is directed by Jeremy Gillespie. I'm just guessing on how to say his last name. It's rough for me to say. And then Steve Konitsky. This was a very interesting cosmic horror inspired film. Basically, the premise is that a police officer brings an injured man to a hospital, and then a bunch of crazy shit starts happening in the hospital to everyone in the hospital. So just to get this out of the way, I really enjoyed this movie. I found out about this movie because of our good friend Matthew put me on the movie because he found out that I am a cosmic horror enthusiast. I think cosmic horror is a very cool concept, and it's very interesting. Just the concept of existential dread, not being able to control what's around you, and how the things you can't control will lead to like awful atrocities and abominations that you can't really stop from happening. All you can do is bear witness. And The Void definitely embodies the concept of that movie, which is what I absolutely love. Just that concept of cosmic horror and just being, like Doctor Strange said it best, you're just a momentary speck within an indifferent universe. So I like the themes in this movie. How did you guys feel? Rico, let's start with you.
So yeah, I got humongous Lovecraftian vibes for this. Like it just seemed like it was like something that was taken from that. I was like, oh man, with the cult and with all the
Mm-hmm.
little like Stranger Things looking like upside down world type going on. Like I
Oh
was
yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, you guys saw that. So I was just like, you know what, this is really interesting. There was a couple moments where it kind of dipped for me, but a lot of the I really wish that they did more with the more grandiose like scales. It just seems like they kind of ended it off and kind of blue balled me in a way. But I was really curious to see if there was like something that came after because it did get me hooked for a good bit of the lore behind it. I am still very like lost on a couple things because I just watched it today too, right before knock at the cabin, so I didn't get the chance to view it a second time. But there are quite a few things I have questions about that I'm hoping you guys can answer for me. But still, I thought it was a really good watch. Matt, how about you, man? How'd you feel about that?
Yeah, I fucking love this movie. Like, I definitely think this is probably the gold standard in terms of like cosmic, like Lovecraftian type of horror. Like, I've been really trying to think like of other ones that are like better or maybe at this caliber. Like, I just think this thing is incredibly well executed from like a writing standpoint, directing standpoint, cinematography, the prosthetic effects. Like,
Mhm.
I like this actually, like when I was rewatching this like today, like there was just like some things that I was reminded of. I was like, oh yeah, shit. Like this movie is like very impressive, like with like everything that's being executed in terms of like the prosthetic effects, just interesting things that like I've never seen before, but it's all like very low budget too, and like again, like our last movie, like this takes place in one location for the most part, and it's just I am really just like surprised at like how well executed it is. I definitely do have like some criticisms more so this time around when I watched it. This is like my third time watching it. But I definitely do have some criticisms I have with it, but there are some things that I still like. My love for this movie does truncate over those minor criticisms, but I do think this is like a very, very well written, very great executed cosmic horror. Like this really is like a well executed nightmare in my opinion. But yeah, what do you think, Andrew? I'm really curious to. I mean, yeah, I mean, I recommended this movie to you fairly recently, and I'm glad you enjoyed it enough for a recommendation. So I'm curious to hear what you have to say about it.
Oh man, Edges again. First of all, thank you very much for recommending this movie to me because a while back, me and Matt, we're all friends. We make conversations, and I was talking to Matt about how I really got into cosmic horror and like Lovecraftian lore because of the show on HBO Max called Lovecraft Country. And that show was a really great show for a couple of reasons. One thing, I don't know if you guys knew this or not. I mean, it's pretty well known already, but H.P. Lovecraft was super fucking racist. Like he was
Yeah.
like the
Yeah,
epitome
yeah,
of what a bigot is. Like he's just like the absolute worst. So I feel like this goes without saying, but I'm just gonna say it anyways. Everybody here does not approve of racism. So first of all, fuck H.P. Lovecraft for thinking that way. You fucking piece of shit. If you are in hell, and when I die and I get there, we're throwing hands. Like it's
He
happening, bro. Like
he was a
Cthulhu is cool, but I'm kicking your ass.
hey, he was a product of his time. Blame the
I give him no,
society.
but I understand that. I understand he absolutely was a product of his time. However, from like once I started doing, because once I got into Lovecraftian culture, like just through Lovecraft Country, because what I love about Lovecraft Country is that they actually tackle like racism and like sort of the subject of it during like the civil rights movement and everything like that. That's when the show takes place. That's another show I'm going to recommend to our listeners. That's a really good show on HBO Max. It only has the one season, unfortunately, and it has Mr. Jonathan Majors, who is going to be playing Kang in the MCU, or who has been playing Kang in the MCU since Loki, the
Oh,
final episode debuted. So that's where I found about him from that show, and then the movie on Netflix, The Five Bloods, because he was in that movie as well. So he gives a great performance in that show. The show is very well written. It tackles a lot of great stuff about, the systematic racism that was taking place during the civil rights movement. So that's what I really loved about the show, because they're taking material that was created by someone who was super racist, and they turned it into a commentary on racism. So I thought that was really cool, and that's really what caught my attention about it. So I mean, again, remember, guys, don't be racist. That's not cool. So moving on from that, I just love the execution in this movie specifically. Just sort of the build up to what happens first. We open to the two hunters. I don't remember their names, so I'm just calling them the hunters, who take out that one girl and chase after the other guy who run out of that like messed up barn or cabin. And then it progresses to the our main character, I guess we would say, the cop. His name is Daniel. Finds him running kind of bare on the street, sees that he's bleeding and everything, so he takes him to the hospital where the movie mainly takes place. And we meet a couple characters. We meet the doctor, who knows him very well, Dr. Powell, and then we meet Allison, a nurse, Kim, an assistant, and then there's also Beverly, who's also a nurse working there. And then we have an older gentleman, I can't remember his name, and then his granddaughter, I think, right, who's pregnant.
hmm?
Yes.
So we're introduced to all the characters. Everything is starts building up slowly. And one thing I noticed upon this second rewatch, well, I was watching it before we started recording, and I noticed as soon as Dan brought in that crazy guy who was running away from the hunters, the lights start flickering in the hospital like immediately as they walk in. And I thought that was a really interesting detail.
Yeah, so that was like a really big part where I was just like, I didn't really connect the dots because
Mm-hmm.
pretty much the hunters, why were they even there? Like, it seemed like they were like kind of in the dark about a lot of that stuff, but they were just there. I didn't understand where they fit into the whole thing. I know that's kind of derailing what you guys are asking right now, but can
No,
you
it's
guys
okay.
like fill that in for me? Because I don't know if I missed it or I just don't
The
understand why they
the
were there.
son, I believe, was about to be sacrificed.
Oh,
Okay, so the father, the son, and then they have a mother, because it is explained like in a flashback sequence when they are getting more deeper into the void. Like as they start to get deeper into the void, like towards the end of the movie, they start to like kind of like hallucinate and whatnot. And I think it's implied because okay, so the whole thing is Doctor. Okay, so full spoilers here. Dr. Powell is trying to resurrect his daughter, but he needs a pregnant woman or of some sort. So, or like, not maybe not even a pregnant woman, but I feel like at some point it was determined that he's like, okay, like I need a pregnant woman. So for a long time, he's been experimenting. It is like relatively vague, but he does say that he has been experimenting like many different ways. And at that house that they were at, like the cultist house or whatever, I believe it's implied that that's what happened to the mother and the daughter, because there is a point in the flashbacks with the father and the son character, because I wasn't even sure what their relation was. I didn't think they knew each other, but it turns out that they are related, and that they had the dude had a wife, and he had a sister. So it's not. I mean, they do. I'm kind of blanking on like what exactly happened, but I think it is like heavily implied that like they died as a result of Dr. Powell trying to like, or this cult trying to resurrect his daughter in some way.
Mhm. That's definitely the case for sure. I also I kind of thought with that whole dynamic at first, I didn't immediately register that they was father and son. I thought it was like, um, because he said he was saying his whole family, like he didn't the older hunter didn't say his family. He said his family, but like about the kid, not his own family. So that was like that dialogue kind of confused me as well. I was kind of like, so wait, are you related to this kid or not? Is it like, was that other woman your daughter then, if not your wife, or like what was, because that's where I got confused too. Like I know they're related somehow, but I wasn't sure. I was like, maybe he's a son-in-law, and that's why he was angry at the kid later on. Like spoilers again when they go deeper into the void, and he was shouting, "You're supposed to protect them." So I wasn't sure if that was him projecting his own feelings, or if it was him talking directly to the younger hunter, saying you're supposed to protect them or whatever. So I wasn't too sure about that either. So that's where I was a little. I knew they had some kind of relationship. I knew they knew each other somehow, but I feel like it was kind of vague. How did you guys feel about that?
Well,
I
the son doesn't have, he can't talk
yeah
either. So,
Yeah.
like, that's another
Yeah.
thing worth mentioning. He can't communicate because it's mentioned that, like, they were trying to experiment with him and, like, he stopped them and
Mhm.
whatnot. And, like, you are right. Like, that part is a little vague when I was watching it this time around. I'm like, okay, I wish there was a little bit more backstory on, like, how he, like how he got up to his son, because like the introduction of this movie is him going through that house shotgunning a lot of the, like, shotgunning people, and it's implied like, okay, like this guy is like some bad shit, or not like he's bad shit because like he burns the body. He's like, he's on a mission. He's like, he
Mhm.
feels the need, like he thinks he needs to kill these people. And so, initially you think like, okay, like he's going to be like an antagonist of some sort, but he's just trying to kind of get a hold of this kind of like outbreak that's about to happen of some sort or whatever.
Yeah, I really felt like they were setting it up, but it didn't feel like he even knew what was going on, really. Because
Yeah,
even when he's
exactly.
seen all the monsters that were coming out, all the deeper meanings of the cult, it was all new to him too. Like he didn't know about any of that stuff, and when he's seen those pictures, he's just like, "What the fuck? All this like sex stuff going on," and like then
Oh yeah,
when
when he goes into Dr. Powell's office.
yeah, and then when he
Mhm.
sees that the guy that he was hunting was also like photographed in it, he was like, "Look who was here. Look, this guy
Yeah.
probably knows what was going on." And it's like, bro, were you just going after this guy for no fucking reason? You didn't even know about this cult. You just started shocking. Like a
Well, I
lot of
think it's
it.
because he started chasing him because he got away because he was killing everybody in the cultist house. No.
Yeah, because like that's why I was a little vague. So it's like, why does he want to kill the tweaker?
Yeah,
Like,
but
Yeah.
why is that so important?
but the thing
Like,
about
yeah,
that
I kind of had that was in the back of my head too. I was like, I
But the thing about that too is that he didn't know about all the monsters or anything. So when he shot
Mhm.
that one girl and then like burnt her alive, like that was so unnecessarily like evil. Like what the fuck? He didn't know that she was like if there was a possible monster or demon, whatever kind of fucking outbreak coming. Like I was like, what the fuck? Like when they start revealing things, it just made me question the past motives of certain characters. This is like, then why did he do that unnecessary ass murder to that chick? I was like, what? Why is he even like? But yeah, that was like a big question of mine, and I don't know if that was just comes up to the writing, like they just didn't think about that in hindsight. But that really was like setting me off. I was just like, what the fuck? Like questioning intention.
That's for sure. I feel you on that too. That was my main criticism of the movie. Sometimes because I know being vague and discreet really works well within a story, but then there's still sometimes where you need to add context to make the audience kind of understand what's going on in the story. One of the other criticisms I had aside from that was also kind of like the sound design sometimes. Like the sound design is good, don't get me wrong. But I remember I mentioned this briefly with Matt after the first time I watched it. There was moments when like the music was louder than the actors' dialogue. So it was
Hmm.
hard for me to hear what the actors were saying because the music was so much louder than what they were saying, like their own audio. So it made it a little harder for me to like hear what they were saying and like hear their performance. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A similar criticism that I would have of that is like I watched it off my phone, so I'm not sure how it looked
Um,
for you guys. but it did look very dark in certain scenes. Did you guys have that problem, or was that just because I could totally chalk that up to just being my phone, like the way I
I think it's
watched
your
it?
phone, honestly, because it looks
No,
great. It's
yeah,
a great looking movie. It's a great looking movie,
that
that's
was
for
gonna
sure,
be
especially with the budget.
that was gonna be like a highlight I mentioned because this thing is shot incredibly well with like
Mhm.
very very vibrant colors for how
Yeah,
dark it is. Yeah, I was about to say like that was the thing I was very impressed by. Like considering like this is like one of the best like nighttime cinematography movies like I've seen. Like in like it is very well shot. Like the amount of light that they do have radiating through, like it all makes sense. It's all lit very well.
yeah,
Yeah, I thought yeah the nighttime sequences, all the darks, the blacks, like everything looked very on point.
yep,
I robbed myself of the experience, and I'm
you
sorry.
did. It's okay. Hey, you watched the movie. That's what matters. That's why we're
This,
here
It's not
today.
a not as bad as Men,
yeah,
but
Mhm.
yeah, I still think yeah, it's Men
I was
is
waiting
like bro,
for it. I was like, Matt's
missed
gonna
this.
bring up men.
Yeah,
I was like, he's
that
gonna bring it
was
up.
gorgeous.
There's
Oh
also
man.
there's something with the movie too that I wanted to bring up. I made like kind of like a little like diagram when I was taking notes watching it. The For this episode, I noticed that there we see a lot of like triangles and prisms throughout the movie, and I found it really interesting. So like just to like refresh my memory, like exactly what the word prism, like the definition of it is. So I wrote it down in my notes. So prism, for those who don't know, is a three-dimensional object in which the two ends are identical. And that made me think, okay, prisms, right? These three sides to it. There's that concept with like Lovecraftian creatures being like three-dimensional beings, fifth dimensional beings, like they're on a different plane of reality. So it made me think, oh, three prism, three-dimensional object, three-dimensional being doing something like this. It also adds to the expression of viewing things with your third eye, because within Lovecraftian lore, like for example with the Call of Cthulhu, which I think this story definitely borrows a lot of elements from. Now that I've watched it again and I've been like refreshing myself on like Lovecraft stories, like in Call of Cthulhu, the cult is a big kind of aspect that I definitely noticed that was adapted into this movie. And along with the idea of having your third eye open, the concept of like Cthulhu itself is just like once you see him, like the visual representation of him can never be perceived by the human eye. So you either end up killing yourself or you go batshit crazy. And I think that's something the movie conveys really well, that like as they're going deeper into this void, that is sort of like an entrance into like, so the name of like the creatures in Lovecraft lore, like Cthulhu, Azathoth, all those creatures, they are called the Great Old Ones. They're basically like ancient gods who have been slumbering within the earth for eons, and they're so like powerful they had to be put to sleep and can only be awakened by certain things from humanity, or they feed on like a certain kind of people, kind of like more either mentally weak people or people who have this desire to have more knowledge, more understanding of how the universe works. So all that stuff was very like well done in this movie. I really liked all that. That was something that just really caught my attention, which is something that I really enjoy about Lovecraftian culture in itself and how it's conveyed in this movie. Sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there.
no, no, you're fine. Like that's exactly how it is too, because this is based off of it. It has to be like if you're gonna do a cosmic horror, you gotta take some like liberties with like the OG cosmic horror like like franchise that started everything. So it's like I can understand like a lot of it being like kind of a nod, if not like a direct inspiration for certain things, especially with the cult too, because there's always cults like in H.P. Lovecraft's like things. Like there's cults in like
Yeah.
most of his stuff. So the cults, they don't really seem like they did too much,
Hmm.
to be honest. But I kind of would have
Yeah.
liked to see more of them. What about you, Matt?
Yeah,
How'd you
they were
feel about
definitely interesting. Like their even their entrance when they first show up with that one cultist that stabs Daniel in like the arm, in like the shoulder or whatever.
it? Hmm.
And I kind of looked at the design of the blade. It kind of looks like a tentacle. Like the blade is kind of curved a certain way. And you know how with the cover of The Void, it's like tentacles coming out of a prism shaped portal or whatever. So I that was a little detail that I noticed too. And I was like, oh, interesting.
They've got curved swords.
They got curved swords, brother. Run, bruv.
What about you, Matt? How'd you feel about that? The cult.
I like the element of the cult. I felt like it added like another interesting element that, like, to the cosmic horror. That, yeah, it just it elevated to like the experience for me. I thought the visual of them was pretty creepy. Just they're not even necessarily like trying to attack them; they're just trying to keep them confined in this one area. But yeah, fuck, if you do get close enough to them, like they will fuck you up.
Yeah, they'll rock your shit.
But,
There's one thing too I wanted to get. Oh, I'm sorry. What did you want to say, Matt? I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say, like, I felt like I got like a lot of the, because I kind of like shifting gears here, but I felt like I got like upon this rewatch a lot of the horror experience through Ellen Wong's character.
Yeah,
I forgot her character's name right now, but
Kim.
in my note,
Kim.
Kim.
Kim,
Yeah. It's weird because like at first, like she was like legit kind of annoying me. Like I was just like, oh my god, like she's just like she just keeps repeating the same shit. She's not disrespectful, but she's lazy, doesn't want to help out. But more towards the end, she actually has a character arc, and she actually like starts to help out, and like a lot of her experience actually is like pretty horrifying, like what she's going through. And yeah, she actually kind of won me over by the end. Like I was actually like very surprised.
Especially when it's like revealed that she killed one of the cultists at the end to like kind of save herself. She made a decision and she made that decision. I was like, oh, fuck yeah. Okay, cool. And Andrew, I'll let you talk about Kim, but I would really like to talk about Bev after that. So if we can circle back to
No,
that.
yes, I want to get into Bev too. I'll talk about Kim real quick because I mean I'm basically on the same page as you guys. I think the actress you said Ellie Wong was her name.
Yeah, Ellen Wong.
Ellen Wong, sorry. So Ellen Wong does very good. Like you definitely like I actually enjoyed her performance the first time. The first time I watched it too, it's because kind of like from her perspective, she's just like an intern who's working at this hospital. Another thing I want to add real quick too with the hospital, I love the aesthetic of the hospital because they talk about how they're moving everything to a new one. So basically, there's like no proper they don't have enough resources there to help them out with everything they have going on in the moment. So I thought that was really cool too. It adds to that aesthetic of like there's your resources are so limited and you're going up against this force you can't even begin to fathom or understand. So I like that. And like back to Kim though, real quick. She was you definitely felt through her eyes. She was like, I'm not supposed to, she wasn't even supposed to be there technically. Because I remember in the movie they mentioned she was supposed to be at like a different hospital or something, but something had happened. So she ended up there. And you really see her like really terrified and scared and not knowing what the fuck to do. And by the end of it, she killed one of the cultists to survive, and she kind of like became stronger for it. So I definitely really enjoyed Kim too.
Yeah, I like how the movie didn't. Yeah, well, I actually like the ending too. Like it's bittersweet, but it's not like I wouldn't even say like it's bad or depressing. I mean, we can get into that later. But yeah, I do like how she does like have that arc. She like stopped complaining all the time, and she actually like stepped up. Yeah, I'm glad that the movie didn't end on the note of just completely killing everybody. I'm glad that she actually like survived. She actually kind of won me over by the end.
So Rico, you said you want to get into Bev, right?
Yes. So I'm going to start off with a complaint and then you guys can build off from there.
Okay.
Okay. How the hell did Bev become some fucking troglodyte motherfucker? How the hell did that? Where? When? What? I feel like I missed something. Like, did the doctor
when she walked off? Because she walked. I mean, it is stupid of her to walk off by herself, but yeah, she left the group to get supplies for the pregnant chick.
No. That's Allison. That's Allison.
No. I'm talking about Bev in the very beginning.
The other nurse.
The one that turns into the monster.
So like, yeah. So the one that stabbed the guy in the face. Okay,
yeah.
Sorry. Okay, yeah.
Like,
so
I
think it's yeah, because like I did think that was a good scene though. Like all things considered, because like she does like she's like, oh, this isn't my face, and she starts ripping it apart and whatnot. Yeah, I think they. Yeah, because I don't know, because I feel like it's because Dr. Powell is for sure. He has his hand in this somehow. I feel like maybe has a power to do something like that, or maybe he injected her with something. I don't know. I'm really
I
not
think
sure.
he definitely, I think he does. I think he definitely had a hand in what happened with Bev, because after that whole sequence where she turns into the troglodyte motherfucker, like you see Dr. Powell's body isn't there anymore. Like it's gone. So it's like he probably did something, or wait, no, wait, he was still alive, wasn't he?
Yeah,
When they
she
first
she
showed up?
turned
Okay,
into
yeah,
it.
you're right.
Yeah.
Never mind. But he definitely, I think it could be a number of things. I guess that's the only negative thing I would say about not even the movie, but kind of like Lovecraftian culture in general. Sometimes they don't really. A lot of it is kind of like it's vague and it can get kind of confusing. And like, how did this creature come to be? But the idea is because you don't know how how it turned into something, that's what makes it more scary. Like you don't have the answer to what happened and how did it become like that. But that's kind of like a double edged sword, because it could be a cool concept, but it could also be kind of confusing at the same time.
Yeah, because there's a point where the hunter starts getting visions of like his brain's getting entered and everything. So I was like, was Bev also getting visions, or was she like
Most likely,
getting
yeah.
invaded? Because she didn't show any sign of anything going on. She was so normal, and then out of nowhere, she's just doing some really cool fucking practical effects on my boy that's just trying to take a snooze after his run in with Kim. And I was just
Oh,
like,
he was cruising after that for sure.
oh yeah, that was a long rest. But still, that was a cool scene. I thought that was really good. I was like, oh shit, what the
Hmm.
fuck? But
Yeah.
yeah, the practical effects in this movie, top fucking notch.
Hmm.
Really, really liked them. Not sure if you guys want to continue on to other things or if you had more to say about Bev or anything like that, but Bev's troglodyte form was fucking sick.
Yes.
Like,
Yes, it was. It was terrifying too. Like, and like the sound design of the creature, the way it was screeching and howling. I was just like, dude. I remember when I first watched this movie, and it was that whole sequence where Bev was already the troglodyte and all like monstrous and attacking them or whatever. I remember I had to pause the movie, and I was just like, Matt, fucking thank you so much. Like I was just like I would just love that whole sequence. It was so fucking cool. And I was just again, Matt, I'm so fucking grateful you showed me this movie, bro. I love it so much. Just the practical effects, how small the budget was. Another thing I want to talk about too was like the dream sequences. I thought those were interesting because you had
Yeah,
three consistent or I think it was like two or three consistent areas, right? First it was like the rocky, empty, barren wasteland. And then there's something in the clouds. And then you have the cloud itself, kind of like, or it was like a Nexus event kind of looking cloud, and then regular thunder clouds. I think there was another scene like that you're just constantly seeing those images like that. Those shots were fucking beautiful. They look so, especially the Nexus looking cloud. That was probably my favorite shot.
yeah. I mean, that's another huge plus I wanted to give this movie. Like the cinematography. I mean, for it all taking place in a hospital, this film does provide like a lot of cool visuals, like of the void, like especially like it
Mhm.
looks really like beautiful, like very desolate, very barren, very dark, but beautiful nonetheless. Like I still think it was a really cool visual.
yeah, and especially, sorry about that, my voice cracked. I'm still going through puberty. But yeah, especially with this like all the imagery that you have like just in the practical effects too with like the tentacles and everything it also gives you that sense of just like you're just small and that everything that you see is like very very big and you're just a speck compared to it and you don't understand these other realms that they're trying to tell you about when the movie progresses and you're just on one set plane and you don't understand the scope of everything, the difference between the barrier between life and death, and how if you learned about. Oh man, do you guys remember that line that Dr. Richard said? Oh god, what was it? It was like I decided to go looking for I decided to go looking for answers and I found them or something
Oh,
like that. Do you remember
it
that,
was
Andrew?
he was like, when you start looking, you'd be surprised what you find. Kind of that line, right, where he's talking
That
to
Yeah.
Allison.
that was
hmm
so good. I love
It
that line.
was.
The way he
Mhm.
delivered it was really, really fucking impressive.
Yeah, it was that, and that's the thing too. The acting in this movie is actually pretty solid. Like every actor isn't like. There's some actors who are just kind of like they're not like they're not really in the movie much. It's kind of like the grandpa character and then the granddaughter. But all the other actors who kind of get all like more attention, they all do a pretty good job in the movie overall. Like there's no, I wouldn't say everyone was like a Oscar like worthy performance, but they weren't like C list god awful acting movie either.
Yeah,
No, yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, everyone is actually like for the caliber of film it is. Like everyone's bringing their A game. Like
Hmm.
I was very convinced by everyone's performance for the most
Yeah.
part.
yeah.
And then talking about just, oh, I'm sorry, Rico. What do you want to say?
Everyone's character in the beginning is so incompetent. Like, and
Mhm.
then you get to see everyone just kind of like they either die incompetent or they rise to like show that they could like stand up to this kind of an occasion that happens, which you see with the main character too, like Daniel, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, you see that a
Yes.
lot with him. So like,
Yeah,
I really enjoyed like the progression of everyone's characters. But back
yeah.
to what
And
you were
there's
saying, Andrew.
there's two scenes that I want to get into with you guys. Like the first one I want to get into is the phone call between Dr. Powell and Daniel, and then I also want to talk about the scene after that where they started interrogating the junkie guy. I really like the phone call scene, just kind of like how you really feel that Dr. Powell is like really feeding into like Daniel's like really like fucked up memories about like everything about his relationship with Alice, the other nurse who Matt had mentioned earlier, who goes on her own and gets supplies for the pregnant teen. So I really like the scene like that. The actor who plays Daniel, I can't remember his name right now.
Aaron Pohl.
Aaron Paul, he does good. He's a good lead. Like first his character's kind of like the typical like snarky quippy cop, and then you kind of see him get to flex his acting a little more. Like when he starts like repeatedly asking the doctor, was like, "What did you do with Alice?" And like his constant like you see his like facial expressions like changing more and more from like desperation to frustration to anger. Like all that was done really well in that scene. What did you guys think though?
No, I think he's a solid leading man. He actually like provides like a lot of great emotion in this film too. And you get to see a good range of it too, considering that his wife is playing one of the nurses too. You get to see him play off that really well. You get to see, kind of like their lovey kind of. Well, I mean, they're not together in this movie, but you could tell there is a past. I think he was once pregnant, and they lost the baby, which
Mm-hmm.
is like another huge thing that this movie is like trying to kind of get across. Which is another thing too, like that I did kind of like want to kind of get into, maybe like fill in the gaps for you guys. 'Cause I did go on Wikipedia to see what was like maybe up with Beverly, and it says that he was entranced. So, I mean, with that being said, I do think maybe it's a female thing. Like they're easily susceptible to, um, I would assume maybe the doctor because the I don't know. I don't know how he has the power, but I feel like he can easily influence women,
Mm-hmm.
given the fact that with Beverly, and oh my god, what was the other woman?
Pregnant
Allison,
girl. Pregnant girl.
Yeah,
pregnant
pregnant
girl.
girl. Yeah. Sorry, the daughter. I can't remember her name right now. But how she fucking stabbed her grandpa in the back as soon as you assumed she was dead or something. She
Yeah.
was clearly entranced in that moment too. Yet you don't really know why. I feel like it is more so like the environment of the hospital. Like as the void is getting stronger, like that influence maybe gets a little bit stronger because even when Ellen is guiding them through the hospital, she's like, "All right, you're in an area like I don't even know where you're at." like because like the void is like starting to open up and whatnot. But just some food for thought. I'm not saying like that's an explanation, but maybe. But
Possible.
but yeah, I did find. Sorry, what was the second thing you brought up, Andrew? The phone call with Dr. Powell and what else?
The interrogation scene after when they started interrogating the junkie guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
When they start kind of finding out more about what like what was going on, like for example what was going on in like that cult cabin, how Dr. Powell had like given people these drugs and basically they were having an orgy and then they started sacrificing the people there and all that crazy
Yeah. And he started seeing hella crazy shit.
yeah, and then he
Apparently.
said I don't believe. I like the line too, like the line where he says like I don't believe in the devil but I believe
But
in
yeah,
this, and I was just like, oh, that's cool.
yeah,
That helps create the scenery and like the tone of the movie.
Yeah, I think it's in the phone call where he's the doctor starts talking about how the elder
His
gods like
daughter,
basically they
yeah,
no the elder gods like basically predate God, like predate time and everything like that. How there's like things that are stronger than what we think are the strongest, like cosmic
hmm
beings in the world, and there's something else out there. So I thought that really added to the scope of things.
yeah. And I like how it's just with like simple dialogue with that, like you do get, like that was a good word you used. Like you do get like a scope of like this story and like this whole other world and whatnot, and you do get like some visuals with that too of like
hmm
some like the nighttime cosmic visuals and whatnot. Yeah, it's stuff like that that like for me elevated the experience because like it actually is shot well. There actually are some interesting shots here, and there is like a tightly written story too. Like they're actually like yeah, we are like confused on like a few aspects here and there, but I do think like it is buried in this story. If we just like maybe rewatched it another time, I feel like it would be cleared up a lot more.
hmm
But yeah, even like your explanation of like just that just being like a Lovecraftian thing of just like not everything being explained, like it's also very viable too, because like a lot of that stuff like just doesn't bother me
hmm
too. Like I'm still very immersed in this movie, which it's highlighting a lot of the practical effects, and it gets me thinking about this type of stuff too. And I think that those two elements go a long way for me, especially in this movie.
hmm I
Uh,
also like how before they enter like well for two things. So I liked how there was that mandatory shot of a creepy nursery in the abandoned hospital, as is done in a lot of horror movies. Always like or horror games too. There's always that part in the abandoned hospital where you got to go to a nursery and you got to fight these deformed creatures, whether it's like Dead Space or Resident Evil or whatever. I don't know if Resident Evil had a sequence like that, but there's like games and movies and TV show scenes where you're in like a nursery and it's very creepy looking. So I like that, but it's done in a lot of other horror movies too. But the main point I want to get into is just kind of like I love how once they enter the void, the older hunter basically he's like looking around at everything, recognizing the symbols from the house they were at the beginning of the movie, and he basically says it's a rat's maze, and it's like implying that there are rats in a maze, but along with that, there's someone or something above watching like the maze and watching them run through it, kind of like adding to the existential dread of there being higher elevated elder gods called the great old ones or whatever, and they're just watching us as we run around like rats in a maze trying to figure out what's going on, what is our purpose, why are we alive, like what is all this, how what is going on. So I like that whole thing with that. It was cool.
That's a good way to put it there too. Just because it's like that also just shows like how they're all just playthings in a way.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if you guys want to start getting into the ending with the doctor and his long like monologue kind of way. Did you guys want to get into that?
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, let's do it. Go ahead.
Because
Go right into it.
that's
All you, Jacob.
probably where I had the most confusion on.
Mm-hmm.
Just so I would like to just hear you guys talk about it.
So I mean, I so like what's your question mainly? Like what's your confusion on?
So I had a lot of confusion with like what his ultimate plan was, because I thought when he had like the pregnant girl give birth, I thought that was gonna be his daughter, but it wasn't. Also, that practical scene where that thing just like explodes out of her and just starts dragging the mother's body with it, that was sick. Sorry,
Mm,
that tangent. However, that I gotta give those props. That was fucking cool.
it
Um,
was.
but yeah, I thought he was going to like resurrect his daughter, but I didn't see that happening. And then they collided, and then they went into that other realm, and I was
Mhm.
I was very lost in the end, and I watched it like a few times just to like, and I just didn't feel like I was getting clarity on it. I would really like to hear you guys explain that.
I took it as that. Yeah, he does say like, "Oh, look at my like, look, there's my daughter," and like, I think it's implied that like the creature is his daughter. I mean, like, yeah, like not the traditional sense, like, yeah, it looks like a human or something, but like in a sense, like that is like her soul coming back into this world, into this like weird fucked up creature. Because like he even says like our bodies aren't meant to be put through this kind of thing. So like yeah, it's not natural, but he still gets what he wants. Like yeah, it still looks like a fucked up creature and whatnot, but it is still like his daughter.
Yeah, I'm with Matt on that one. That's kind of how I perceived that the ending as well, and I also saw it as like it's like hindering back to my earlier point of how well, not hindering, I mean, but more it adds to my earlier point of how like when you're exposed to these love like these when you're exposed to the great old ones and what they really are, you lose sense of reality in terms of what's important and what's not important, and how the universe is just indifferent, and you, as long as you have what you want in it, nothing else really matters. And like Matt was saying, Dr. Powell got his daughter back, just not in the conventional sense of in terms of looks and physical form, but his daughter is most likely, you know, in that creature. But it's just all we see is the creature itself. For all we know, what's being perceived by Daniel is just those creatures, but in those creatures' eyes, they just see themselves. They're just in a different form physically.
Oh, this is not my face type of deal.
Yeah, exactly right. It's the idea of like saying when you, because with like Lovecraftian stuff, it's definitely that idea of like it's also just it's also that nihilistic point of view of like uh everybody is nobody. Like that's the truth of it. Nobody, like everybody thinks they're somebody, but in reality, everybody is nobody. It's There's no point of having labels, looks, names, like it doesn't matter. Like the universe creates life and takes it away just as fast, and you just sort of, this you are what you are, and you perceive what you're allowed to perceive and what can be perceived. So once you break that barrier of what's allowed to be perceived, back again to that point I made earlier, third eye's open. You see things on a different plane of reality now. So that's kind of how I was looking at that final scene. It's like the doctor has ascended to a different way of life and different way of viewing reality.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
And then, what can
Yeah.
you interpret from him being shoved into that portal? Because it kind of
I
just
take it
ends
as like
after
he's
that.
stuck there now. Like he's
Yeah.
stuck there with. I mean that's where I get the bittersweet ending too, because even Aaron Paul's character, he's reunited with his wife too, which you see at the end,
Mhm.
and I thought that was a good scene too. Their last moment together is them holding hands, and then we cut to black. But I think it is implied that like without the doctor anymore, that doorway can no longer be opened.
Right.
And then the doctor is just roaming about, I
Reality. Yeah.
guess.
He's off doing his own thing, probably
He's
with
in
his
the void
daughter.
somewhere.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
somewhere in the void. Yeah.
See,
That's what I liked
that's
about the void. It was like how each time they went down a staircase, it just led to like further and further like atrocities kind of thing. I thought that was
Well, yeah,
cool.
and you see more fucked up visuals. You get to see
Hmm.
much more of those practical effects like coming through. And I was learning that there was I was going through the IMDb trivia here, and apparently there was no CGI in this movie. Like they
What?
really
No
just
shit.
went ham on practical effects. I
How
was
the
just like,
fuck
what?
did they do all those like dream sequences? What the fuck?
I know
Another
that was
thing too was the Void. It was all crowdfunded.
really.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So hold on. Okay. It says hardly anything in the film is CGI. Okay. So I guess some of it is,
Okay.
but all of the monsters, gore, etc., are real effects created by the team behind the movie.
That's so cool. Like, because the movie gave me like a John Carpenter's A Thing kind of vibe in terms of the practical
Yes.
effects. Like, I feel like there's no CGI here. It's all practical, and that's fucking dope.
Yeah, you know what's really funny is that I thought that this was gonna be like a Jaws situation where they only show like the head of like something, they don't show the entire body, because I based that off of the first like viewing of the monster when the tweaker guy was still handcuffed to the gurney trying to get out, but you just see little tentacles like kind of like all over it trying to like touch his hand and everything, get a handsy, but
Yeah.
then later on, you see like the older deputy get it dragged, but you don't see what's dragging him. And then like right after, you just see everything. Like they just start going at it, hacking it away. Like it's starting to like do some fucking like men birth out of the top of its spine, and then you see that thing get blown up. I was like, oh shit, okay, we're seeing shit. And then they just
Yes.
kept it going throughout the entire thing. Like there's some crazy practical effects in here, especially when it's like okay, this one's obviously a special effect, but when that one creature is like slamming its head against the pole like so repeatedly that it's just like gaping
Yes.
hole, like that was still hella cool. I was like,
dope.
that was awesome. Just the visual on it and everything. That was so cool.
Yes, right. Yeah, when I was rewatching that today, I was like, I think Rico would like that moment. I was, that actually got under my skin. I was like, ooh, that's a great visual.
The sound on that too was so sloppy and it's like, ugh.
Yeah. It's so nasty.
Yeah, just visceral. That's a really good word for this movie too. It's like some of the shit that is in it is very graphic, and it's like implied like certain like abuses that happened, and it's very just like it's just brutal, and it's just so like gross in that sense.
And then one more practical effect that I really liked was later on when Daniel finds out what really happened to Allison, and when you see all the tendrils or tentacles or whatever spewing out of her body, and she's just like a corpse, like that whole set design, the practical effect of it was like fucking spectacular to look at. I was just like, oh my god, Matt, thank you. Fuck, I was just like this. I was like, it was so cool.
Yeah, dude. Like it was a great visual too. There's just like it's all over because like at first he doesn't see her that way, and it's a reveal that like he's hallucinating and like she's dead, and like this whole thing like consumed her, and then like is it after because he talks to the doctor again, and he's all like, I gave her what she always wanted to be, like a mother, and I was just like, oh my god.
I wasn't sure if like it was implied that he impregnated her. Like I hope
he did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the part of the abuses that I'm talking about. I'm like
And that's another thing too that I wanted to get into that we didn't really touch on too. I love that they do touch on the fact that the hospital went through a fire, and it is heavily implied that it was because of him and these ritualistic experiments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all of his like children that he called him in a way.
Yeah, and I just like how like it all plays into the story because like like you mentioned earlier, like they're moving all the supplies from one place to another, but it could also be like the doctor planned for this because there's a lot less people. They're much more easier to contain. Like his cultists could definitely like handle just keep them in this building. Like I think it's just well thought out on his part.
Yeah, and then the
Yeah.
pregnant girl's grandfather is all like, "Yeah, the doctor is the only one that stayed. Like he was like he stayed even
Well,
after the
exactly.
fire and everything like that." And it kind of hinted like, "Oh, really? Why did he stay then? Like, what are his intentions?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and like that's why I like how this thing is written. Like it's all there. It is pretty tight in my opinion. Like they just like this is just the gold standard of cosmic horror in my opinion. Like I know I said it at the beginning, but yeah, like I'm really trying to come across and think about like other ones that could top this for me. And I don't know, maybe I just need to watch more. But this definitely like might be like my favorite Lovecraftian type movie.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like I'm pretty good off this movie. Are there any other major things that you guys really want to get into and talk about?
I mean,
Other than that, I'm pretty good.
other than the OG like gold standard of cosmic horror, which is Galactus from Fantastic Four 2, like this is a close second to that. So
Oh shit, fuck, you're right.
yeah,
Damn it.
I don't.
Ah,
It's
Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer. How can I forget?
yeah, Galactus, greatest cosmic horror in the entire world. Big blubby.
Yes, fucking a fart cloud.
Yep.
That's the best kind of cloud. Hello.
Yes, noxious, deadly fumes. I guess you have a point.
Obviously inspired this movie with all of its dream visuals, so yeah.
Oh god. Oh, like
But yeah,
man.
in all seriousness, I am ready to get to ratings. If you guys have nothing else to chime in on,
Yeah,
No.
I think I'm good off this movie. Yeah, I wouldn't mind going first again with the ratings. This is something I do really love. Uh, okay, there's one more other thing too, like that I wanted to get into because it bugged the shit out of me this time around because I'm like, okay, why didn't you do that? But you know how like okay, after they killed Beverly, they put her body on the stretcher and they burned it, right? And
yes, I
they
know
took it
exactly
out.
what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
Okay, why didn't they do that with the doctor? Like
Yes.
I was just like, yeah. When I watched it this time, I was like, well, okay, so I remembered it this time. I was like, okay, no, they took Beverly. This event happened first. They took out Beverly's body because they knew she was infected. Why the fuck don't they do that to the doctor? Like, what was the line of thinking there? Like, you would assume like everyone is maybe infected at this point or something. I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, it was just like that's so stupid.
and then you have the
Yeah.
hunters that were like, "Hey, we gotta burn them. Like maybe we could just burn the entire hospital with them inside, and then get everything
Hmm.
cleansed like that." Like, where the hell were they when they just left that body there? Like they burnt a girl in the beginning of it. Like why wouldn't they burn this guy?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
It's a fair
yeah.
criticism, I think, because they don't really give a legit reason why they didn't. They just
No, they don't. Yeah.
the best thing you can maybe come up with is that like, well, they got killed by the junkie. Like, there's no like infection there or whatever. But even then, it's like you would still need to assume that he is because Beverly got infected and she was perfectly fine.
Hey, and then they burnt that little girl in the beginning of the movie without any knowledge of the monster or anything like that.
Well, I wouldn't say she was a little girl.
That first girl,
A
that
woman,
little,
yeah, yeah. I know
Yeah,
what you mean. Yeah.
she looked
I
young.
get it though. Yeah, I get you.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
back to your
freaking
rating.
that definitely bothered me on this watch. I was just like, what? Like, why? Like, why would you? Just my line of thinking, like, I would fucking take his body out there too if I could burn his ass. But
Yeah, fuck that.
yeah. Oh yeah, shit. I'm sorry. Like, I brought that up in my rating. Yeah. Let me. Okay. Yeah, so yeah. All things considered, like, yeah, I love this thing to death, but upon rewatching it and that slight little plot hole like right there, yeah, I this is when I hate rating things because like my heart gives it a 9, but like my critic brain gives it like an 8. So okay, I'm gonna land on an 8. I'm gonna land on an 8.
Mhm.
I do love this thing a lot. I love this thing on like the level I love like a 10 out of 10. Like this is like my bread and butter right here. And I'm just glad this is a movie I can show to you guys and I can show to other people. And I can be like, yeah, this is a fantastic horror movie in my opinion. This is one like I would love to show to other people. And it makes this horror, sci-fi, mystery all in a good amalgamation for me. Like it's very well executed, and yeah, a very strong 8, very close to a 9, but I'm gonna solidify on an 8 for now. What about you, Rico? What do you think?
So I had the same like kind of opinion that you were having. Uh, when I watched it, I was like, "Oh fuck yeah, dude!" Like, because of a lot of the practical effects, you guys already know that I'm like a little fucking nerd when it comes to that kind of stuff. So like, I was gonna rate it very very high, but then there's a lot of like writing inconsistencies that I just was like in the moment it's like trying to build up this like mystery. However, once you get more information going throughout the movie, you're just like, well then why did this happen? This Why did this person burn this girl if he didn't even know that there were monsters? Or why did this tweaker stab the doctor like as if he didn't know this guy, but he was actually like super afraid of this guy because he's the one that's like the big guy behind it, but he had no problem being like, oh no, fuck this guy, I'm gonna stab him as if he's like a nobody. Like, there's like a lot of things like that where it's like, it's just like, it's just so weird, like in hindsight. And it's like, I don't know, it kind of took me out of it in a lot of spots, but still, practical effects wise, this shit is fucking ridiculous, dude. This shit is so cool. This is what I really, really like wanted to see, and I didn't even expect to see it in this movie. Went into it with no expectations, but was really, really like pleasantly surprised by it. So I was teetering on an 8 and a 7. I was gonna go with high 8 because of the practical effects. But then, like, especially while talking to you guys brought up things that I didn't even consider. I'm gonna actually like bump it down to a 7. But still, I really had a good time with this movie. I feel like I should have. I didn't realize it was gonna be lower quality on my phone. I should have definitely have watched it on the TV. So anyone that wants to watch this movie after listening to our little podcast here, definitely treat yourselves to like a TV, like don't just watch it on your little tiny ass phone while at work. So, but yeah, so I would give it a 7 out of 10. I really really enjoyed it. I would actually like to see where the creators of this movie like go like their portfolio going forward is going to be. So I might actually just stick up with them and see what they're going to do. But Andrew, what about you, man? This is your recommendation. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on everything.
Well, I definitely love this movie, and again, Matt, I fucking love you, man, for showing me this movie. It's fucking awesome. It's definitely up there for me as like one of my favorite. Not, I mean, I think it's definitely gold standard Lovecraftian adaptation, but I just really like it. It's one of my favorite, one of my new favorite horror movies. It's up there for me with like John Carpenter's The Thing. Like, it's just such a like I had such a good time with this movie. So, and then just all the themes of the cosmic horror, existential dread, the inability to stop something from happening or having no control over this impossible situation and just trying to work your way through it and hope for the best and maybe it'll end well, maybe it won't. That's one of my favorite aspects of cosmic horror in general. So with all that being said, I'm going to hit The Void with a solid 9 out of 10 because I absolutely love this movie. It was so cool. Had a great time with it. Rewatching it again made me love it even more because before I had this movie at like a solid, I think it was like at like an 8, maybe a 9, or honestly, it might have been a 10. I can't remember. Point is, I had it in that ballpark. But after listening to your guys' points of views and some of the criticisms you guys pointed out, it did knock the movie down a bit for me. So I probably had it at like a 10 mentally. So a 9 is where I'm gonna land with it. Had a good time. 7, 8, 9 scores, all very solid scores.
Yeah, and that just
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean, we all
shows
liked
you.
it.
Yeah, that kind of just shows you the spectrum and everything. Like none of us rated it low. It's a good fucking movie. You could just watch it off of Tubi for free. A couple ads here,
Yeah,
but definitely worth a watch. It makes it's really really interesting.
Another thing too, it's only an hour and 20 minutes. It's a very low commitment. It doesn't waste your fucking time. It gets straight to the point.
exactly.
Yeah, I love this thing. I'm with you, Andrew. I mean, it's a 9 in my heart, just so you know.
Of
So,
course, of course.
like,
You're
I
you're being
love this
unbiased, and I
thing.
gotta respect it. I gotta respect it.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, this is. Yeah, I'm glad you guys liked it. I mean, like, I know this is your recommendation, but yeah, I'm glad that you threw it out for the podcast recommendation. I'm glad it had that effect. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the beauty of art.
Yes, sir. A picture can say 1,000 words.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and yeah, fucking in this case, yeah, fucking yeah, quite a bit of words. I definitely feel
Oh
like we
yeah.
got a pretty good conversation out of this one.
Hmm.
Yeah, solid
But
amount of
yeah,
time on it too.
yeah, I feel like we're like a little under 2 hours. Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, we can wrap this up now. We can get into our plugins, what our next recommendation is going to be, and yeah, we can call it a night, boys. What do you say?
Yeah, I
Oh
like
yeah.
that. I'll start it off real quick. So yeah, we are going to start recording things for Practically Done. We have everything set up, and after watching this movie, I feel way more invigorated to get back to it. So I kind of want to meet up with everyone. I have a very strong idea of how to go forward with the series on Practically Done that is taking actually an old concept that Matt threw at me years upon years ago that I'm really curious to see if he still remembers. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. We'll talk about that off cam. And it's gonna be actually really fun. I just wanted to tease you, Matt, personally with that because I thought of it and I was like, dude, no fucking way. This is gonna be so cool. Anyways, go and watch
Okay.
Practically Done and go and subscribe to there because I have a really big fucking scope of things to go for that. So it's gonna be super cool. So, anyways, Andrew, what do you want to plug in, my man?
I want to plug some love. Hug someone you love tonight. It's very important. You got to plug in the love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
I call it thug life, but take away the T and bring it in.
Who's that one wrestler, Bailey?
I like that.
I saw a
Nice.
raccoon meme of that, and I was just like, I gotta say it. I gotta say it. I
Uh,
love it. It's a great one.
you gotta put it in the TikTok, man. You just
Oh
gotta
yeah,
do
Yeah,
I
I
know. I
was
was getting
leaving
to
you
that.
for that.
I was getting to that. Jesus. Oh my god. You guys don't let me have any fucking fun on here. But
Hey,
anyways,
man,
guys,
just
like Matt was
all the
saying,
great minds think alike.
exactly.
Why we're all
like
here.
like Matt was saying, we do have a TikTok page. It is at Another Movie Podcast on TikTok. Feel free to check us out. I have a couple of clips posted on there from all our previous episodes. So check us out on there. We'll definitely be posting more on there too. And we do have a little kind of like a new channel we're going to be working out that Rico had actually brought up to me and Matt at one point, which is what was it called again, Rico? AMP does or AMP goes, right?
Yeah, it's called A&P Goes. Matt, are you okay with this being revealed right here? We'll definitely have the video ready for
Well,
this.
like it's still like early stages. It's kind of like I look at it in the same vein of like Practically Done. We don't have like videos and content out just yet, but it's something we're going to be doing either way down the line. So just sort of
Yeah,
like a little, and I'll probably be once we get that page set up, I'll definitely be posting clips from that onto our TikTok page as well.
Yeah,
yeah. Just a like brief little synopsis. It's not gonna be anything movie related or anything. It's just gonna be us and the homies going around our little Sacramento town area, trying new places and whatnot. Yeah, if that sounds like something anybody would be interested in, yeah. Whenever we have that page made and have a video or two posted up, we'll be sure to let everybody know. If that kind of content sounds interesting to you, make sure to subscribe to it. We'll come up with a name here soon. But
Mhm.
until then, we will come out with more info on our next podcast. And yeah,
real quick before we end off, let me throw my recommendations.
No, I know. No, for
Sorry.
sure. I was going to get to that. No, I just wanted to throw out, just make sure to follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok page. And I did throw it out in our last podcast episode. I just want to reaffirm that I am doing letterbox reviews. So if there's anybody that wants to give me a follow on there, I will also include that in the description. I will follow you back. And without further ado, let's get into Rico's recommendations for the next episode. So yeah, take it away, man.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I thought you were ending it. I was like, oh no. I feel him winding it
No,
up.
no. It's okay. No, understandable.
I was gonna be like, how does it feel?
I know. I was like, oh god. By the way, Andrew, I have a video that's really funny. I took a video of the email that you sent me, and I was like, where is it? And it got corrupt. It didn't. It's like in my junk mail, and I couldn't even download your video. The one that you were giving the recommendations for, like a long time ago. But anyways, my recommendations that won't be corrupted or be sent into a junk folder will be the new release that is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Just came out this past Friday. To timestamp our little endeavor of recording this episode, 2/17. And then the personal recommendation is a movie that I have been recommended to by Matt, and I think Andrew has also seen it. I'm not entirely sure, but it's Glass Onion, another Knives Out tale, basically. So I've never seen it, but I have heard a lot, and I love the first one, so I'm really interested in watching it. So yeah, those are my recommendations for next week. That's gonna be fucking sick. So yeah, that's it for me.
Boom. Nice. We did it, guys. Episode 16. One for the books.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yes, sirs. Yeah, and to all listening, thank you. I will double down on what Andrew said. Yeah, hug someone, spread some love. Go listen to our Batman podcast episode because it's still almost at 100, but it's still not there yet. So if you guys can do that, that'd be pretty awesome.
Please, just watch it, please.
Watch that John Wick trilogy one. Dear God.
Please. Just watch.
Yeah.
guys.
Give John Wick 1 loves 2 because that. Yeah, I mean that one's pretty long, but yeah, we're
That's
just. It's just us stroking ourselves again, but yeah, we had to throw it out there.
Matt likes to stroke along things, eh?
Hey man, when it's you guys, it's hard not to.
What got me was just the silence. I was like, oh, I thought that was kind of good.
No
With that
homo.
being said, time to
But yeah, have a good one, guys. Bye.
later.
Adios.